Okay, welcome to Positivity is the Way to Go. He is a fantasy sports guru with 20 plus years of experience. He is the co-host of the Smash Pod and co-founder of Smash Fantasy Sports. Welcome, my guest today, Christopher Hewitt. How are you doing on this Feel Good Friday?
Dion, I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on.
But it's a pleasure to have you on. Who are your fantasy sleepers in the NFL right now?
Oh, so I got a bunch. I mean, sleeper partially depends on where you pick, but I think a couple guys going way too low for my taste. Dak Prescott, guy was quarterback 3 last year. He's going in the ninth or 10th round with some other guys being drafted pretty far ahead of him. You got guys like if you want deeper sleepers, you got guys like Keon Coleman. Uh, Josh Allen threw 160 times uh to Stephon Diggs last year. Diggs is gone. They didn't pick up another receiver. Gabe Davis gone. Keon Coleman's a guy that could blow up. Deep sleeper, depending on how deep you want to go. Justin Fields. We're talking about a running quarterback, always gets you a ton of points in fantasy. Because there's uncertainty about who's going to start in Pittsburgh, he's going like the last 2 rounds of the draft, but averaged over 20 points a game the last 2 years. If he starts, could be one of those guys you get in the last round that helps you win your league.
What do you think about the tight end position and running backs? Because you know the CMC is the number one running back. You got Brees Hall and B. John Robinson because they got Cousins now, and the Falcons they just got Judon and Simmons on 1 year deal.
Yeah, so it's interesting. A couple position there, right? So let's start with tight end. Tight end's interesting. That's a very flat position this year. I think number one, people debate is it going to be Laporta? Is it going to be Kelsey? I don't know. Do you have a favorite between those two?
Well, Kelsey getting older. I think he gonna retire soon because you know he want to live off in the sunset. You know he want to party with his brother and stuff. You know I don't think he want to play in the NFL too long because you know they take a lot of hits to the body of the tight end and stuff.
They do.
You know he got a block. I think Kittle, Laporta. I think Kittle and Laporta, and you forgot about Pitts from Atlanta. He gonna be
Yep.
putting up big numbers because he getting passing offense now. He gonna get the ball thrown to him now. Because
I was just
last
gonna
time
say is that
They had Desmond Ritter as quarterback, and you know he was a running
yeah.
quarterback. So now he gonna get the ball thrown to him. So
Well, I
they
watched I
stock
watched
gonna be
Ritter play
risen.
plenty. The problem with Ritter is he wasn't a running or a passing quarterback. He was just a guy who threw the ball into the ground. Look, it's a tough position. Obviously, he was a great college player, but no, what I'm saying is so Laporta and Kelsey are kind of called the top tight ends. But a couple years ago, Kelsey was number one by far. Back in the day, you had Antonio Gates number one by far, Tony Gonzalez. Those guys were league winners. This year, the difference between Laporta and Kelsey and some of the guys you mentioned, Pitts, Trey McBride, Dalton Kincaid, and Buffalo, it's not as big of a gap. So even Evan Ingram, a guy that a lot of people underestimate, he's going right now in like the seventh round, tight end 7, 8, or 9. 143 targets was the tight end 2 last year. And look at Jackson. They lost Ridley, they lost Gabe Davis. Or sorry, they brought in Gabe Davis. They lost Ridley and Zay Jones. 200 targets. All they brought in was Gabe Davis and Brian Thomas. Kirk will take a few of those targets. Ridley also had 25 red zone targets, which is third in the league. All that is to say, Ingram's got a chance to get 140 targets again and additional red zone targets. So I don't know if I want to go invest a ton of draft capital, a high pick, a lot of auction dollars into someone like Kelsey or Laporta when I can get someone like Ingram, McBride a bit later in the draft. Or if I really miss out, go grab someone like Sanat. Again, someone's got to catch the ball in Washington. So could be an opportunity to get a sleeper later in the draft.
Yeah, and what would your draft lineup be if you had like a draft? Like if you had put your position right now. Who would you choose like in like a 5 round or 8 round draft right now? Who would you choose if you
So
had if you had your options?
So in the first round, I mean, so much of it comes down to where you're picking, right? Or bidding is just all about value. But let's say if I've got the number one pick, really hard to get away from CMC. if I'm choosing from the top receivers, I know this goes a little against the grain because he lost Cousins, but I still like uh Jefferson there, the Jet, his nickname for those who don't know. Uh
Justin Jefferson.
yeah, he's elite. He's elite. He played just as well with Nick Mullins last year as he did with Cousins. So I think he's quarterback proof. And I think Darnold is not great, but is certainly good enough to sustain his value. And then running backs, and you can't Bijan or Brees. I my favorite Bijan only because then I can name my fantasy team Obijan Kenobi, and like give a shout out to my nerd side. But Brees Hall could easily be the number one guy as well.
Yeah, that sounds good, man. That's why you the fantasy guru and I'm the YouTuber.
Yeah,
Now we
you
know our roles of apparently.
well, you seem to know your stuff too, so it seems like you must be a big football fan.
Well, yeah. What's your favorite sports team? Who you root for?
So I'm a 49ers fan, so that's why I got a little bit of that Christian McCaffrey bias.
Oh, so you're a Brock Purdy guy. I know you had to be painful to watch the Super Bowl, man. Y'all should have won, man. Y'all should have beat them twice.
That was our,
Garoppolo dropped the ball. The wide receiver dropped the ball.
yep,
Emmanuel Sanders, he had the ball. He was about to go in for the score, and then y'all just everything went downhill when he dropped that football. And then
yeah,
Purdy, he got sacked. I think y'all should have ran the ball more. I think that's the problem. If y'all ran the ball more, y'all would have killed the Chiefs. I think
yep.
y'all been unlucky those 2 times.
Yeah, last year, I gotta say, the Niners fan last year was more painful than a few years back. First time we lost him, it really felt like the Chiefs were the better team, and we had a lead. But when Mahomes started connecting with Tyreek Hill and Kelsey, it kind of just felt like the better team was finally like showing up. Last year, it felt like we were the better team, and they just beat us. Yeah, it happens. So, uh, well, one will look back on with regrets for a long time.
Well, it was Shanahan fault. He 0-3 in the Super Bowl. He the one blew the lead with Atlanta against the Pats. He blew that 27-3 lead, so until he win the big one, he ain't gonna be considered a great coach. But
That's how it
let's
works. Well, it's how it
yeah.
works, but it can change anytime. Like look at Andy Reid, right? Andy Reid, and when he's in Philly, everyone said, "Oh, good coach, but can't win the big game." He only made the Super Bowl once. He lost some games in the NFC Championship. People actually called him a choke artist. Looking back, it's crazy too, because those teams like Donovan McNabb does not get enough credit. He was going to the NFC Championship and winning games with Freddie Mitchell and Todd Pinkerton as his top two receivers. As soon as they left the Eagles, they were out of the league, right? These were not nothing. Look, Freddie Mitchell's UCLA. I've always got a soft spot for him, but these were not elite receivers. But Reed and McNabb made them look good. But once Reed got to the Chiefs, won multiple Super Bowls, and now he's like one of the greatest coaches of all time.
But why do you think Williams and Ayuk haven't been saying yet to they extensions, man? Y'all playing games now. Y'all want to win it all. Purdy on the last contract, he gonna get 50 million next year. So y'all in win now mode this year. Y'all need to go for it all.
Well,
Because
I think
y'all gonna lose Samuel next year because y'all gotta play Purdy. So it's either Ayuk or Samuel. One of them gonna have to leave and one gonna stay.
and I think that's why this is taking so long because they're trying to get these deals done, but they're trying to like manage the cap because they're trying to they want to build a sustainable team. And so this is going to be a big year. And I think IU comes back. I think they're getting close. But I think they want to make sure contracts are done in such a way that like I won't be surprised if this is Samuel's last year. We sign Ayuk, Ricky Percival, the guy we got in the draft in the first round, he's more similar to Debo than Ayuk. Now to be clear, no late first round pick is coming in replacing what Debo does. But if you take like the Moneyball mentality, like Billy Bean did with the A's and said, you can't replace Debo with one player, but you could get a guy like Ricky who has can run the ball a bit, can make the big play, can fit into Samuel's position better than can fit into Ayuk's position. But you can take some of the skill and move it there, and you get another player who does some of the other stuff that Samuel does. So I think probably Debo's last year here, as we have to sign Purdy.
Yeah, that's a good point. Who do you think are going to be the sleeper teams in the NFL? Because every year it's always four or eight new playoff teams. So and then people finish they go from last to first. So who do you think are the teams that you need to watch for in football?
Well, one you mentioned earlier, which is the Falcons. They have the easiest strength of schedule. I mean, it's hard. Strength of schedule, you don't always know till they start the season, but at least looking now, Falcons have the easiest strength of schedule. Everyone talks about Kirk Cousins, the offense, of course, right? That should be better. But they got Judon, as you mentioned. They got they signed Isaiah Simmons the other day. They spent four. Everyone knows they took Penix with like the first round pick, but the second to fifth round they took all defensive players. And their defense wasn't great, but it wasn't awful. It wasn't like incompetent last year. So they took an okay defense. They added, six new pieces to it. Obviously, have a new coaching staff. So I think they're one team that missed the playoffs last year is going to be competing this year.
You don't got no other sleeper teams?
I will say
What
another one,
about
and
what, what about Indianapolis? The coach with A Richardson. He coming
they
back off his injury.
they could be. I think they're still a year away. I think that Richardson's a little bit raw. I think they've got a slightly harder schedule than a team like Atlanta. I will say another team on the cusp, though. Maybe not a pure sleeper, but one that people are sleeping on again, due to what was mentioned earlier, is the Vikings. I feel like they've got a strong defense. Uh, Darnold only has to be okay. I actually don't know that Darnold is that much worse than with Cousins, particularly a 35-year-old Cousins at this point. So I think they've got enough talent. If Hawkinson comes back from injury, the big thing with Minnesota now is the injuries, right? They've got Addison's hurt. Hawk was already out, so uh, I think if their third string receiver got hurt, so health could absolutely change what I'm saying here. But they're a team that has the offensive talent to score and has a pretty good defense, and now added to the running game, of course, with Aaron Jones. So it's not all passing attack anymore.
Yeah, but I think the Bears gonna be better because the Bears got more weapons. And the
Also,
Bears
more
got and the
weapons and a
Bears
good
got and the
defense.
Bears got a better quarterback. If the Bears
Yep,
defense come around, I think Minnesota gonna be last in the division to be honest. Because
that could happen.
Sam he ain't better than Caleb. So y'all got the fourth best quarterback, and normally the fourth best quarterback don't win games or get to the playoffs.
Yeah, the other unpredictable part is just again who gets hurt this year, which happens every year and wipes out some teams. Uh, I will tell you, I don't think it's a sleeper. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, but a team I think is going to be a little friskier this year is even just Carolina. Bryce Young was bad for the number one pick last year. He was not terrible for a rookie though. They just added multiple offensive linemen. The offensive line was weak last year. They had Deontay Johnson. The defense is, again, pretty decent. So they're another team that was in the cellar last year that I don't think they make the playoffs, but I think could be a tougher out than people are giving them credit for.
Yeah, good. That's a great point. What do you think about the repeat of the Chiefs? You think they're gonna repeat and be the first team to do that in the NFL, or you think another team you pick them for next year?
So it's hard. If I had to pick a team I like the best, it's probably the Chiefs. With that said, the odds of three-peating is low because the NFL playoffs are one and done, right? It's not a playoff series like the NBA. And one injury, one thing goes wrong, it can derail your entire team. So if I had to bet to the Chiefs three-peat, I'd say no. If I had to pick one team and put $1 million on them to be the best team, I just don't know how you bet against Mahomes and the Chiefs at this point. Strong defense. They improved the offense. Mahomes is still an MVP. So they're going to be a tough out.
Yeah, but why do you think NFL teams tank like NBA teams now? Because that's happening more. Arizona did, Chicago, Carolina did it, but they first round pick went to the Bears. So what do you think about that?
So I think so much of it is because the quarterback is such an important position. And I think that one of the things you used to see is that, the NBA, you have five players on the floor. So one great star can change the game. In the NFL, you've got, 11 on offense, 11 on defense, special teams. And so what ends up happening is you one player can't impact the game in quite the same way, or it used to be like that. So teams didn't want to tank because tanking meant you had to get rid of so much. Like look at what the Sixers did in the NBA. They dumped all of their talent. Thunder did the same thing. In the NFL, if you literally said we're going to get rid of all of our veterans, all of our talent, we're going to stockpile draft picks, it would take you a really long time to rebuild. But I think what teams have found is that a quarterback now is so impactful that they can actually say, we're gonna like bench guys. They don't tank like the Sixers, but they say we're gonna bench our guys, we're gonna run young guys, we're gonna lose a bit at the end of the year. And if we get that quarterback, they can be so transformational that it's worth it.
Yeah, because well, the draft next year is going to be Sanders and Beck from Georgia and a quarterback from Colorado with his famous dad, Deion Sanders.
Yeah.
So those are going to be the top two quarterbacks next year because the quarterback draft class is going to be weak next year.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what teams start to fall apart and start to tank. There's a lot of still really bad teams, but I actually think it's going to be a good year in the league. I think a lot of the bad teams from last year have made some smart moves. Really curious to see what happens with the Jets, another team that's had a strong defense. They were a mess last year with Zach Wilson at, obviously Rodgers got hurt in like the first quarter of the first games. They had Zach Wilson all year. Really excited to see the Aaron Rodgers, Garrett Wilson connection. Should be pretty dynamic.
Yeah, but Buffalo gonna win it, man, probably because they got the best quarterback. He younger and he actually stay healthy. A-Rod got to prove it again. He only got one championship in his career, you know. He got to
And
win more, you know. I say more. It's more A-Rod because he near the end of his career. The Allen got from Buffalo, he's still in the prime of his career. He in his 20s.
I definitely would definitely pick the Bills over the Jets. And it'll be interesting to see because Rodgers is getting older. So even his last couple years in Green Bay, as a Niners fan, we played Green Bay in the playoffs a lot. And I will tell you that a younger Aaron Rodgers made me nervous the same way that Pat Mahomes makes me nervous. Every time he gets the ball, you are scared. You just assume he's going to break down your defense, especially as the game goes on. By Rodgers' last couple years in Green Bay, still a good quarterback, but I'll tell you, he didn't strike that same fear in me. I kind of felt like we could stop him if we played good defense.
Yep, well said. What are your thoughts on the NBA and free agency? Because there was a lot of movement in the NBA. You know, it's very interesting, but the top team will still be Boston. So, what are your thoughts on that? And who is a legitimate threat to Boston in the East, in your opinion?
What's hard there's not a lot of threats. The main threat to Boston in the East is just health, with the exception of, in my opinion at least, a healthy Philadelphia team. The problem is Embiid has struggled to stay healthy. Paul George has
You
struggled to stay
funny
healthy.
man. Trust the
What's that?
process.
What was that?
You funny man. You trust the process. Embiid always he ain't healthy, and then George he play off P. You know, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. They've got to be healthy. But I mean, if they're healthy, Maxi, George, Embiid, that's a team that could at least challenge Boston. I just don't see. New York is good. I don't think New York's beating Boston. Indiana's a fun young team. I don't think they're more on the way up though. I think they've got some time. They're not beating Boston next year. Uh, I don't even know who like Miami. Look, I love Jimmy Butler. He's one of my favorite players, but he's getting older. I just don't see a team with him and Adebayo, and Jaime Jaquez and Terry Rozier. I don't see them getting past Boston. Boston's just done such a phenomenal job. Well coached, great front office, great depth. Credit both to Brad Stevens and Danny Ainge for what they, at various times have put together. It feels like health is again the main thing that could derail Boston.
And what about the West? Do you think anybody can from the West compete with them, or is Boston to lose next year?
It's hard to see without a trade. I mean Denver's good. Denver at their best is really good, but I don't think they're on Boston's level. Lakers have LeBron and AD, but just feels like they're getting older. They would need another move. They need to get like a third star in there that I don't think they have right now. Clippers are always interesting if Kawhi can stay healthy. Uh, Dallas obviously made the finals last year, but again, feels like they need a third piece. It does. I mean, was sort of a gentleman's sweep. I don't see Doncic and Irving alone beating that deep of a Boston team. Uh, but actually, Dallas last year kind of reminds me of Boston from a couple years ago, when Boston was Brown and Tatum, but they didn't have a lot of other dynamic pieces. So what they do, they went out, they got Holiday, they got Derek White, multiple other ball handlers to take pressure off of Brown and Tatum. They brought in Porzingis for defense, but who can also score. And it worked. It did take the pressure off and it got them over the hump. And it kind of feels like Dallas is trying to go the same direction. So pressure's on their front office. I think what'll be interesting to see is, as of where we stand at the start of the year, I don't think anyone's beating them except maybe a healthy Philly. But I am sure there'll be trades during the season. Will be interesting to see if a team like Dallas can pick up that third piece, or if a team like Oklahoma City, that might be the dark horse, right? Minnesota could also get better, but I don't think they're beating Boston. Oklahoma City, they've got the pieces. They're still just so young. I don't feel like they can beat Boston next year, but they're a team where it feels like if everything broke right, if I mean SGA is already an MVP, but if Chet makes the leap, if Jalen Williams makes another leap, if some of the other young talent that they have that they've been drafting forever kind of steps up, someone like Cason Wallace plays much better this year, they're at least interesting.
Yeah, I say it's gonna be OKC and Boston in the finals, most likely.
You think the Thunder get over the top of Dallas this year?
Well, yeah, they was good. They was the number one seed, and they was one of the youngest team in the league. So, and they had Caruso and Hartenstein.
I think it's going to be an arms race in the West. I think what you're going to see is a lot of moves around the deadline. I think a few teams like Phoenix probably fall flat, but I think you're going to see a few teams around the deadline like Minnesota, Oklahoma City, Denver, Dallas, uh, make some sacrifice the future a bit, make some moves. Uh, Maybe less Oklahoma City. I feel like Presti's more patient, but the other thing, they're going to shove some chips in the middle, and they're going to try to acquire that one piece that's available at the deadline to try to get over the top.
Yeah, what do you think about Bronny James in the Lakers? Because they remind me of like the Cowboys in the NFL. They want headlines. They want to be talked
Yep.
about, but they're not really winning none at all yet. They won a championship in a bubble. That reminded me of James, but James got more championships. But what do you think about everything's going on over there?
I think it's a feel good story. I mean, look, I've got a lot of respect for the Lakers and their front office, and I think it goes without saying, LeBron James is one of the greatest of all time. He's won so many rings. His legacy, his spot in the Hall of Fame, is set. The only debate is like who is the GOAT between, like Kim and Jordan. So I think,
Yeah.
but I don't think LA has the talent to beat those top teams. Now, it would be really interesting. So I think it's a really feel good story that Bronny is playing with his dad. I think LeBron's maybe that's enough for him at this point. I do think if he wants to win again, I wonder if he get to a spot where he works with the Lakers and they make a deal. Like I wonder if LeBron would want to go to a team like the Warriors. And look, it'd be a mess to make from a cap perspective. You need three teams. I don't know if it could happen, but I would love to see LeBron go to another team that can compete for a ring. And I don't know if that's LA at this point.
Well, Team USA, Curry and him, they was on the team. You never know what may happen, man.
Isn't that what always happens around the Olympics? You always see that's where some of these guys have become friends and like teamed up in the past.
That's tampering, though, man. They're gonna find these teams. That's tampering, man.
Hey, the players can talk. The players can talk. It was Katie who called Draymond Green right after they lost after the Warriors lost to the Cavs and said, "Hey, let's team up and Golden State." It's just that the front office can't do it, but the players can talk all they want.
Well, if KD would have stayed, they would have won two more championships. He would have had four instead of two. So I think he was stupid to lead that team because he would have won. They won two more once he left.
It's a hard situation, right? I mean, look, Katie's got to do what's best for his life, but I think he was feeling the pressure of his legacy. I think he got a lot of flack from fans who were like, "Sure, you won, but this team won 72 games before you got there, 73 games before you got there. They have a ring before you got there. They lost the prior year with some injuries, some tough luck. So I think Katie was feeling the heat, and he wanted to prove he could go win a ring somewhere else. And to his credit, well, I know he won't get enough credit for it. He was one smidge. If his toe had not been on the line, the way he played
Against
with a
Milwaukee
banged,
when he played with
ah,
Brooklyn.
yeah, yeah, exactly right. If his toe is 1 inch back, they probably beat the Suns. He probably wins a ring with Brooklyn, and he takes himself to a whole nother level in the all-time greats.
Yeah, but he getting old and he need to go to another team because he not gonna win with them at all. He just scoring the butt basket, racking up points that's all he doing on that team right now. But let's
Yep.
talk about Cooper Flag, man. Who do you think will get him? Because he is gonna be number one pick next year.
Ooh.
I mean,
You
they was talking. He was the talk of the town when Team USA camp, man.
Yeah, it's interesting. So it's been a while since we've had a generational prospect the last couple of years. Then we get almost not quite, but almost back-to-back drafts. We get Vic, and then we get Flag. And I feel like Flag is has the kind of hype I've only heard a few times, right? Vic had it. Zion Williams had it. He's just had some trouble staying healthy. Obviously, LeBron had it. So it'll be interesting to see. I think you're going to see a lot of teams tanking this year. I think any team that realizes they don't have a shot at the playoffs around, January is going to start making trades, shutting players down. I think I see a lot of teams trying to take for Cooper, and so that's what makes it hard, right? A lot of teams will tank. So I don't know which team will get him, but I think a team like Washington or Portland or I actually have a little bit of hope for Detroit this year. Maybe they're not as bad, but a team like the Wizards will probably be in pole position for that pick.
Yeah, let's hope that they win though because they trade all their players already. They got rid of Wall, Beal. They become a star and then they leave in their 20s. You know.
Well, they turned over their front office, they turned over their coaching staff. So I think that it's a new regime. We'll see how they do. I think coming in this year, they don't have I always feel bad saying this because anyone in the NBA is, of course, extremely talented, but relative to other NBA teams, they don't have a lot of talent. Obviously, they got Sar, the rookie, who's okay, not my favorite rookie. Poole, they probably overpaid for. They got Broggs in the Avdija trade. They got Marvin back. The team's a mess. I don't know how many ways to say it. The team is a bit of a mess. I think it's going to take them a few years to work their way up.
Okay, so they're not gonna be in the play-in tournament because you know
Give me a play.
the play-in tournament give teams hope because it's 10 teams get in the playoffs now, not just
Yeah.
eight.
Well,
But
this draft is more than just Cooper Flex. I think this is a good year. If I'm the Wizards and if I'm a brand new front office with very little pressure on my shoulders, I don't want to chase the play in. I would rather be bad this year, accumulate some draft picks, go after Cooper Flag. If I don't get him, get another good lottery pick, and then start working my way up from next season.
and then one more thing. Tell us about Smash Up Fantasy Sports and where people can find it at, and like tell us about everything
Yeah, absolutely.
that
So
you do.
yeah, so our company, Smash Up Fantasy Sports, we are just that, a fantasy football company right now, hoping to expand other sports eventually. And look, my co-founder and I, we played traditional fantasy leagues for years, and they're just getting a little bit stale, a little bit boring. So we wanted to add to them, and we've found a way to add a lot of stuff coming out of some of our favorite, you know, video games, board games, card games. So where we started from is we basically have taken traditional fantasy, but the same way that some leagues now have bonus points. Like if your quarterback gets over 350 yards in a game, we've basically added what we're calling smash cards, which is like almost like a player prop where you can say, I think I've got Tyreek Hill as my wide receiver. I think he's going to catch a lot of long passes. So I'm going to play a card like Speed Demon on him, where if he catches a pass over 50 yards in the game today, I get an extra 30 fantasy points. So there's all kinds of creative cards. We have weekly tournaments, which are one off for the week. We have season long leagues you can play in. And then we're launching this year the world's first single player fantasy game where you can play a series of bosses that'll get harder. Like, have you ever played Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat or Mike Tyson's Punch Up?
I played Grand Theft Auto. I played Mortal Kombat before.
All right. So think Mortal Kombat, right? You start with boss one. If you lose, you got to play him again. If you win, you kind of go up the ladder and you play the second boss. So we're gonna have a series of different head coaches that are going to be controlled by some recognizable names from different fantasy sports analysts you'll know from different sites that you love. And basically, they're going to get
Like Phil Yates, right?
yeah, I don't want to say specific names, but we got some guys from like fantasy pros from different sites that are gonna some influencers who are gonna be controlling the lineups and the cards of these bosses. And the goal is to beat all of them. If you beat all of them before the end of the season, you kind of like win the game, and then you get entered into the tournament of champions of the postseason where you can win cash and prizes. But important note, it's all free. So you don't buy card packs. You don't. It's not pay to win. You don't pay entry fees in any of these games. So it's not a gambling site. It's just about having fun, playing fantasy sports, competing with your friends, and playing these different games that are a ton of fun. And you can go. Anyone listening today can go to smashupsports.com, register to play. Well, everything is free. We've made a promo code just for your show, positivity. So if they go put in the promo code positivity, they're going to get some extra perks. Like in our weekly tournament, everyone gets to set 3 lineups. If you have a promo code, you get a 4th lineup. So nothing major, but a little extra chance to win and compete.
Well, it was a pleasure having you on today, Chris. Man, we gotta do an in-person interview, man.
Well, Dion, it's a pleasure talking to you. It's a deal. Next time in Chicago, let's get together. We'll do a face-to-face interview and a little further in the season so we can see how all these predictions went.
Yeah, maybe lunch too, maybe, you know?
It's a deal. Lunch on me. All right.
Where would we go, man? What's your favorite spots in Chicago, man?
Ooh, it's a good question. So it depends on the part of the city you're in, but love like Cafe Barbariba, love love Sweet Greens, love Steak 48. So many good sushi spots too. Where do you
You
like?
a
What's your favorite
sushi
spot?
guy? I like Shake Shack. I like Chick-fil-A. I don't know any of those restaurants that you talking about, man. I'm like, what's he talking about?
We'll do this. We'll do both. We'll do a comparison. We'll go get a burger from Shake Shack. Then we'll go get like the shrimp dish from Cafe Barbariba. And you can be the judge which one you like better.
We already know who gonna win that, man.
Hey, Shake Shack makes a good burger, so I don't know. It's gonna be close, I think. I like it all.
Yeah, we know who gonna win though, Chris. Come on, man. We should do a poll. We already know who
Do
gonna
it.
win the poll. We
Put
know
put
it.
up the poll. You might be surprised. Shake Shack has a loyal following, so
It's gonna be a
we'll see.
fantasy football battle of restaurants.
Let's do it. I'm in. I'm game. Awesome. Well, Dion, again, thank you so much for having me on. It's been an honor.
No, it's been on the hell you on, man.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate it. We'll talk soon.
Appreciate you, man.
All right.